Thank you, trustees. Thank you, directors, principal, teachers, students. I can tell you that your iconic historic institution was extremely special to my father. Dad never really, said a lot about all that he did, but I could see that he had great pride in being a part of this particular school's management and governance. When I look back at where daddy came from, his roots, our father came from, and I think some of it was brought out. A quote by Jesse Owens, the American athlete during the 1930s, comes to me because he came from really humble background. He said, "We all have dreams, but in order to make dreams come into reality, it takes an awful lot of determination, dedication, and effort." And I can see that was what made it possible for my father, who came from a priestly family in Udwada. The family came under the Mirza clan. They had the right to serve the Iran Shah, and he decided that he wanted to do something more. So interestingly, after doing his Nawar Martab, he refused to do the Samil, knowing that he would then be kept behind in Udwada, and he came to Mumbai as a teenager. And dutiful son that he was, he started working, supporting himself, supporting his education, and not just that, even started sending home some support to his parents. They were 9 siblings. Amazing. I mean, I think it was already told how it was a primary school in Udwada, Sir J.J. School. His secondary school was in Pardi, which was another railway station, traveled to the station every day. That was the kind of fire he had for education. Made a future for himself. There was no guidance, but he came to Mumbai at the age of 16, started working. And interestingly, our family surname was Sheriar Jina. And in Mumbai, he made it Sheriar. And he told me that at that point in time, we had our freedom struggle. He was a young teenager, all fired up, participating in a lot of the events. And, Sheriar Jina and the Jina that came in, that he decided to let it go. And that's how our surname became Sheriar. Teaching was his calling. There's so many things he could have done. I know he was passionate about medicine. And in a way, vicariously, he appreciated the fact that his wife was an exceptional doctor, and I had the good fortune of going into medicine, as did my son. Because had he not been a teacher, that's what he would have wanted to be. I remember the meticulous preparation that my father had for every lecture that he gave. The time he would take, the notes that he would make, how quietly he was correcting papers into the night. He was a part of the university, the academic council, and many of these things he didn't even tell us. That's how humble he was. He was also creator. One of the things was when he created with his very close friend Nader Modi, the YCZA, which became the organization for Zoroastrian youths for many, many decades. He was a big part of the Bandra Parsi Association, being what he did, supported the formation of the youth wing. But I think in the last so many decades, it was his role as an academician and as a trustee that really stands out. Now, here I must confess, a few years ago, I had a conversation with Dad, and I said, "Dad, you're in your 90s. Don't you think it's time you stepped off these boards?" And he just smiled. And when he came to live with us last year, and when I saw him attending meetings on Zoom, and when I saw him sitting with all those papers and the minutes, going over each and every paper that came in the morning and kind of working on them and getting them out in time, I realized that this man, maybe 94, but he had the heart and the mind of being someone who wanted to be in academics and supporting institutions all the time. He could think in governance, he could think like management, and at the same time, he thought about the teachers and the students. He was an amazing partner. Mummy and Daddy had almost, they would have celebrated 60 years of marriage. Mummy passed away in April, and their anniversary was on the 3rd of May. they complemented each other. And I can tell you, when my mother had an illness for the last 5 years, he was doing all this, and at the same time he was continuously by her side, holding her hand even when there was very little response from her. And the partnership that they had was something that has been a learning for us, his children and his grandchildren. Father, grandfather, and friend, I can tell you, he instilled amongst us a sense of honesty and integrity and fairness. There was never a compromise. And I'm glad to say that he was a very, very proud Zoroastrian, and he believed that this is something that was part of his faith and his humanity. Well, we would have a lot of conversations. The two of us would talk about politics. I can tell you, we were both liberals. With my daughter, his granddaughters, he would enjoy a cup of tea, and he would be the one who would make a cup of tea for them. He would be absolutely at their level. With my son, he was just waiting to discuss sports, which I wouldn't discuss with him, but they were crazy about it. So he could be different things with different people. That was really, really moving, and he was very, very proud with what his children achieved, my sisters, with what his grandchildren did, and now his 3 great grandchildren. He was a role model for many. And I can tell you that there were people in our family, in the next generation, who just looked up to him. So Justice Arush Kapadia was my mother's first cousin. And for them, Khurshid was something special, because growing up, they had no other role model in their families except my father. When he was installed as Chief Justice and he had to invite a handful of people, my father and my mother were included, because Sarosh felt that he owed so much to what my father was, just to inspire him to get to that particular level. The letters we've received from his students from all over the world are amazing, telling us this. His friendships and relationships were great. Friends like Mr. Nader Modi, then there was Mr. Sam Choksi, all his co-trustees and co-directors. I know he had a very special bond with them, with Sir JJ and with so many of the others, and it was very mutual. His group of close confidants in the YCZA, they were always some people. Now, basically, what did he stand for? What did he live for? What did he teach us? Firstly, my father was extremely religious. He prayed every day for probably an hour and a half. And I used to always kind of joke and say, Dad, you're doing it for everyone. We don't probably need to, because you do it so well and for so many people. He was extremely tolerant of everyone. He practiced the essence of Zoroastrianism. He never ever had a negative word to say for someone else or for another faith, ever. He was an epitome of integrity. I can tell you that for him, it was a black and white world. It was a right and wrong world. There were absolutely no grays. And that's something that we learned from him and we inherited. He was very disciplined. And he would keep to deadlines. I saw him writing his books, which were the most popular books at that time. And I could see him doing every diagram in the textbook of botany himself, and then working with the artist to make it better. Tremendous humility. Believe me, it's after his passing that we are learning about so many things that we did, which he never even told us about. He wore all his achievements, all his honors very lightly. He never spoke about them really. Fairness at another level, never was negative with anyone. And finally, of course, I can tell you that the way he left the world was itself a lesson for us. I mean, he was there with us. He was with his family the night it happened. We were all there. My sister, my brother-in-law, my children, his nieces. At 2 a.m. in the morning, he's getting ready because he wasn't looking well to go to hospital. We had a cup of coffee, went to the car, and he was gone. I think it was a blessed departure. So I'd like to end by quoting Ralph Waldo Emerson, who actually said what kind of completely wraps up his life. He said, the purpose of life is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, and to have made a difference. He made a difference. Thank you.